Good morning, traders. This is the morning brief video. So heads up on this. So basically, SPY is basically 100% net short uh, the overnight close. Heads up on that. Similar situation we had yesterday. The sellers kept trying to push down the market in the overnight session and didn't get rewarded. So if we were to cross back over yesterday's close, we could be looking for a squeeze higher. Yesterday was an absolute launch to the upside on the open with a similar situation. So far this morning, that may or may not play out, but it's quite a similar situation on the SPY. We had the Qs leading yesterday, but that's quite a similar situation right now. This line right here represents this week's current anchored view app. We came down at 6 a.m., found buyers immediately there. We're still on the bullish side, on the stock side of that anchored view app. So basically, losing the 403.50, starting to push, or 603.50. If we start pushing below that, then we have to start thinking that there's going to be possibly a deeper correction in today's session. Qs. Oh, wait, here I gotta unload this. There you go. The Qs, guys. Similar situation. We have not even tagged that anchored view up yet in today's session. So be very mindful of that. So that's Monday's or Sunday night's anchored view app from the open Sunday night. Okay. Uh, it does look like we might have a little bit of an expansion of range setting up here early on here on the Qs. So be very mindful of that. Very tight and high uh, consolidation in the overnight session here on the Qs. Similar situation. See what time was 1600. Yeah, almost. Yeah, just basically 100% of the inventory is also net short in the overnight session, but so far nobody has gotten even remotely paid on this as well. So be mindful of that. Now, if you go over to the NQs, this study is a stock study where this study is not. So I can actually, like ES's, this gives you a little bit a better idea where we are, pretty much neutral from the Sunday, Monday's close. Just pretty much digesting sideways here. You know, but on NQs, which was the driving force yesterday, showing a little bit of relative weakness to kick off the session. So be very mindful of that. The NQs are showing a little bit more relative weakness versus the closing range. So, and of course, that makes sense because they drove up so much further. So just be very mindful of that scenario. While I got that up, let's put the ready up. Ready was really weak yesterday. Uh, we are holding in the upper side of the end of day consolidation here on the Russell, suggesting we might see a little bit more support in the Russell early on this morning. We got to get above on the IWM. We got to get above the 242. The 242 is critical. We really got to get above that and hold above 242, and so far we haven't been able to do that. So very mindful of that. And even this is the Sunday Anchored View app. They are still holding above that as well. Now, that being said, the diamonds showing a lot of weakness here. So we are below the Sunday Anchored View app, looking potentially starting to look for downside uh, price discovery. So that's definitely to think about. We still got a little gap here from last week that has not been filled. So be very mindful of that. The diamonds could be showing some relative weakness in today's session. So heads up on that. Okay, so we did have some bad news. We have one of the first semiconductor stocks to be closing a plant out in Nevada. Uh, they got all this government money, just like under Obama, but the government didn't ensure that there was actually demand for the products that they were producing. One second, I got to sneeze. So the news broke this morning. MCHP, they're completely shutting down a plant uh, over in Nevada, I think it is, at Nevada, Arizona, somewhere around that. So they got all this government money from Biden, just like Obama. You know, Obama spent a bunch of money to build out the solar industry, which went and completely imploded on itself. Okay, now Biden spent all this money for his special interest to build out these facilities for semiconductors, and we're seeing the first signs that they had all kinds of extra supply for the semiconductor chips that they can't find anybody to buy, so now they're starting to shutter their all this new brand new infrastructure build out. They're starting to shutter the plants already. So be very mindful of that in today's session. So some things to think about here. So the prior week's opening print for Nvidia, um, uh, we actually came down and we're trading below that opening print on the anchored VWAP. So be very mindful here. Nvidia is acting very weak. Okay, for this week so far, we're right back at this week's anchored VWAP coming up from the bearish side. So we have so far this week 100% of our inventory below this week's anchored VWAP, and we're below the 2 week anchored VWAP. So just be very mindful of that. So let me see here. What's the date on that? We'll have it at 3 week. That's 24. 17. Okay, 3 week. That's our 3 week anchor VWAP. So we're below the 3 week. Okay, so now we got to really keep a close eye. Uh, our big line in the sand now is 136.85. 136.85. Okay, so that's our big line in the sand for price discovery to the downside here for NVIDIA. But this is acting very weak in relation to everything else. So we'll see how it plays out here. But we are currently on this week's bearish side of trend, despite having a massive up day. So we have to be very mindful of that in today's session. Apple still in price discovery to the upside, leading the pack. You know, this is not anything here. There is nothing here that says to be looking at short on Apple. Microsoft, on the flip side, is showing that it is looking to backfill. So we've already had some bad news out on semis this morning. Uh, this here looks like it could fail. So be very mindful of that. It already has given us signs that this pattern could be failing early on this morning. Heads up on that. AMD showing a little bit of relative strength still. Okay, it was left for the woodshed, so it's still showing some. Nvidia I already did. Tesla showing a little bit of weakness here. Heads up on that. So we are breaking out of that money range. So below 355.35, we have to be looking to the downside. 355.35, looking to the downside. Heads up on that. So showing some relative weakness here early on Tesla. So it's starting to look more and more like a back and field day possibly. We're still digesting sideways, not giving us any signal yet. Still holding support, still holding anchored VWAP on the stock on Google. Meta really showing some strength here. Heads up on that. It's not something you really want to be shorting because you look right here, you zoom in right here. So this end of day consolidation from yesterday, we are still trading above that. So this thing's still looking price discovery to the upside. Netflix digesting sideways here. Amazon digesting sideways. Boeing showing some early relative weakness. Heads up on that. 100% of inventory net short. Heads up on that. We could stay below 157.30ish. This here might be a double top. Could be a double top. And retrace here. 157.30 would be be one of our first signs of saying we want to stay below that here for the bearish side. Boeing MSTR got spanked hard yesterday. We're coming down again today. Heads up on that. Very expensive stock. So we're still holding support, but it's getting a little iffy here, guys. Getting a little iffy. So heads up on that. Let me see here on the pre-market action. Pre-market action this morning, Intel, a lot of volume in Intel. I was looking for the information. So we are bearish this week's inventory. Heads up on that. And bearish consolidation on that. A little bit up on Bank of America this morning. So we really took it uh, down a notch here on the financials yesterday, uh, trying to show some early price discovery to the upside on Bank of America. Google's up here at the top for some reason. Goog. Okay. Sideways consolidation. Uh, Bias should be to the long side. We're above this anchored view app. Bias should be to the long side. Disney. No. Nope. It's digesting. AMD I mentioned. Apple I mentioned. FXI. Haven't seen that one for a while. Bias is looking to the upside on FXI. I was looking at Baidu yesterday. Uh, Bias looks to the upside. Yep. On Baidu. Hurry up. Hurry. It's not showing up on my list though. CMCSI. This is one of the. That's Comcast there. I'm sorry. That's Comcast. Showing some weakness versus yesterday. Datadog. Yeah. Sideways. So I'm not really getting any tell here. I do want to point out though, we were driven yesterday by Megatech. So the RSP, that's our equal weight S&P 500. It was not. It was giving us a bearish signal early on this morning, whereas uh, the ESs and SPY, they're actually on the bullish side. So our breath is not actually keeping up with on this push up here. Our breath is not leading us up. It's Megatech leading us up here. So be very mindful that the Megatech took us up as fast as that Megatech took us up. Megatech can take us back down. So be very mindful of that situation. Like I said, Nvidia, Microsoft, Tesla, those three are giving us early signals of possible weakness in today's session. So be very mindful of that. Hey guys, anybody knows anything about market webs or volume profile theory? You see how the volume profile just completely was cut off there yesterday. So this represents a poor high, and we're just barely pushing above that this morning on the weekly time frame. So this could very well be a completion of the bell curve on the weekly time frame. So be very mindful. Anybody that knows market profile, this could very well be a completion of the bell curve to the upside. If we start accepting prices above on yeses 60, basically 60, 61. If we start accepting prices below that, then that puts us on the bearish side of the overnight of yesterday's inventory. That would put us on the bearish side of yesterday's inventory. So 60, 61, that's pretty much our line in the sand right here. Price discovery has been contained for the most part above that in the overnight session on ESs. But we want to definitely keep that in the back of our mind that the weekly volume profile may have just look above this morning could just be finishing out uh, the uh, uh, the normalization of the bell curve. So we want to be very mindful of that scenario in today's session. Okay. Sorry, the cat's making all kinds of noise in the background. Has a bunch of toys over there it loves to play with. That being said, now if you go over here, uh, you see this really long, elongated on the weekly. Okay, so we have to zoom in here a little bit. Uh, this here is where the bearish side of inventory happened 4 weeks ago, 4 or 5 weeks ago. Yeah, 4 weeks ago. Okay, so we're currently trading below that. So on NQs, 21,225, if we can stay below that, 21,225. If we can continue to stay below 21,225 right there. This line in the sand. If we can stay below that, 21,225. If we can stay right below that in today's session, then the bears probably have an edge. It looks like we might be setting up for a little bit stronger for the bearish side early on this morning. Okay, heads up on that. Uh, right now, this is acting as support. So we had a back test here yesterday. So this back test right here happened what? Yesterday evening. That is acting as support right now. Okay, guys. So ideally, you really want to wait. We're in sideways, call it consolidation. We really want to lose that to be actually loading the boat, or starting to load size up to the downside. Okay, so be very mindful of that. We want to be losing this area right here. That'd be 21,175 to be loading up the downside. So far, looks like uh, consolidating yesterday's move. So that's what this currently looks like. We're just consolidating, and this bell curve does look like it has completed. So be very mindful of that. Drawing tool. Let's see if I can draw a line here. Well, shoot. There we go. So, yeah, you see that the bell curve? It kind of looks like it has completed. We got that. We got that. Okay, guys. So, you know, bell curves that go like this. Like that. And the weekly looks like it has completed to the upside. The auction has completed to the ups, but potentially completed the upside auction and the downside auction. So we're just kind of digesting sideways, trying to decide, if they need to build out more value down here, or are we going to continue higher? That's pretty much what I see happening here in today's session on the Qs. And this was all driven by just a few names in the tech sector. So be very mindful of this. Uh, a lot of the other names that have not been performing very well got swept up with the big move yesterday. And so we have to be mindful of that in today's session. Okay. Okay, guys, something we do need to be a little bit concerned about. You see this right here? This, I had to turn my Epic pen on to have it a little bit better. This kind of looks like a baby bee. Okay, so this typically can mean that this is exhaustion up here. Okay, guys, this up here could be an exhaustion top. So far this week, this has given us signs that the Russell might be putting it. It's tired, and it needs to take a break and have a corrective wave. So just be very mindful of that pattern that we got going on here on the Russell. We'll see how this plays out in the overnight. We're kind of overlapping. We're overlapping the bottom edge of the Friday. So we're kind of like we're in a box right here. You see this right here versus Friday. So we're building out value right there relative to last Friday's inventory. So, you see this bell curve from last Friday. We came down here. We were finding support down here at Friday's lows. The Friday low area, we've been trying to build support on the Russell. Okay, so this is showing relative weakness versus Friday's inventory on the daily time frame. So let's be very, very mindful of that. So far, you know, they've been supporting it, but we want to definitely be mindful of this development. They defended it yesterday, came in and defended it, and now, you know, we're right here at the bottom of that Friday inventory, trying to decide whether or not that this defend is justified or not. Okay, guys, that's all I got to say. Uh, so we'll see how things play out today. But it does look to me like we have to be a little concerned about tech. Okay, so, uh, so be very mindful. Things aren't all rosy in tech land, in my opinion, and I'd much rather be. I mean, we do have to be careful with the overnight inventory being primarily uh, looking for the bearish side, but but not getting rewarded. Any moves above uh, yesterday's close, could be met with early short squeeze to the upside. So let's be very mindful of that situation. Thanks. Oh, please like the video if you get a chance. Retweet me on Twitter or X. And it's at Gumby9662C if you want to follow me on Twitter. And, I appreciate everything. Leave some comments below if you get a chance. Thanks a lot. Get this thing to work.